everyone. Happy Thursday. Hope everybody is having a great day. And if you're not, I suggest you go over to Candace's show and watch the entire show. Because she definitely let her rip today. And rightfully so. As usual. So I want to start with this. I used to believe trust was a strength, that believing people, loving them meant something sacred. Turns out it was just leverage. Because the people I defended the loudest were the ones sharpening knives behind my back, smiling, nodding, promising loyalty, while rewriting my life without my consent. The lies weren't small. They weren't misunderstandings. They were deliberate, calculated, life-altering. And when the truth finally surfaced, it didn't just hurt. It erased me. My reputation, my stability, my sense of safety, my future. I lost years. I lost sleep. I lost parts of myself I'll never get back. And the hardest part, it wasn't the betrayal itself. It was realizing that everyone I trusted was a mistake. Everyone except one. Because when the crowd turned away, when silence became policy, and fear became fashionable, there was one who didn't flinch. My David, aka Candace Owens. Not louder than giant, not stronger on paper, but braver than all of them combined. While they hid behind power, titles, and denial, David stepped forward with nothing but truth and a refusal to back down. He didn't ask what it would cost him or her. She didn't ask if it was safe. She asked one thing: is it right? And when the answer was yes, she fought. Not for attention, not for credit, but because injustice thrives on silence, and she refused to be silent. They tried to bury the truth. They tried to exhaust us. They tried to wait us out. They tried to destroy David, aka Candace, for fighting. But here's the thing about truth. It doesn't need permission to surface. It just needs someone willing to stand in the open and say, you don't get to destroy a life and walk away. This isn't revenge. This is reckoning. And if you're watching this thinking, why now? The answer is simple. Because survival isn't the end of the story. Exposure is. And the light is coming with or without your consent. Period. So, with that, I would like to show you. I'm going to start first with the new clip that dropped from the Turning Point lady that used to work there that was conveniently fired. Because that's how they roll.
My name is Aubrey Leitch, and I am the former public relations manager for Turning Point USA. And I was a part of the recent kind of mass termination group at Turning Point, and was let go about 3 weeks ago. And at the time of my release, I was working for the ATK company, which is spokesman Andrew Colvet's private business that contracts out with the Turning Point kind of ecosystem. So encompassing of Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action. I was working directly for him. Prior to that, I did work for Turning Point USA. So I've been with the organization since 2021, September 10th, 2025. Obviously, it was an extremely traumatizing day for everyone. I think pretty much everyone in the world with any amount of sanity was slightly traumatized by what they saw. It was an extremely traumatizing day for me. And I worked nonstop. My phone received hundreds of phone calls on September 10th, thousands of text messages. In December, we obviously had America Fest here in Phoenix, Arizona, and that was nonstop work too. And so, really, it's just been go, go, go for almost the past 6 months. During the memorial, for example, I literally did not sleep for over 48 hours. Despite all of that, I want to go ahead and fast forward to my termination, which took place about 3 weeks ago. And
Nothing like working the dog shit out of somebody, and when all the hard stuff is over, shit canning them.
I was brought into an office to have a discussion just generally about my employment. It was myself, Andrew Colbett, and Marina Muniz, who is the CMO of Turning Point USA, who I used to work for when I was just full-time with Turning Point. They sat me down and told me that there were 2 instances they wanted to talk to me about, one of which is pretty irrelevant to this timeline, so I'm just going to talk about the one, which was an Uber ride. What was told to me was that a Turning Point executive got into an Uber one day, and they randomly just kind of started talking about Turning Point. And the executive asked the driver, what do you think about Turning Point? And the driver proceeded to tell the Turning Point executive, well, it's just really sad. I've heard the organization's really going downhill. There's not really a direction, and nobody likes Erica. And the Turning Point executive proceeded to ask this Uber driver, well, who told you that? And the Uber driver told the Turning Point executive that his daughter was good friends with a girl that worked at Turning Point way back when in high school. They had spoken about Turning Point since Charlie's assassination, and that, this was told to him by his daughter. And the Turning Point executive, of course, asked, well, what's the employee's name? And the Uber driver allegedly said, Aubrey. Aubrey who? Aubrey Leitch. And the story was presented to me as one of the reasons for my termination. Turning Point has not insinuated this. They never told me anything like this. However, I just have a gut feeling that I was terminated from Turning Point because I am questioning the narrative of what happened to my role model and CEO, Charlie Kirk, on the day of his assassination. It is from my own experience that you can't question the narrative and work at Turning Point. That is how I feel. That is how other people I've talked to feel. It goes against everything that Charlie ever stood for. I'm going to take action. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to talk to other people. And I refuse to apologize for having my own freedom of thought, which is something that Charlie ingrained in me and so many other young people.
How awesome is that? And all I can say is way to go for her to stand up. I mean, yeah, she was fired, but I'm sure while she was there, she was confused and wanted to believe in everybody. But the more she saw, the more she realized it was bigger than that. And if I'm not mistaken, Candace also said that her fiance also was fired. So that's 2 people in the same household that lost their income. And, 1 is bad enough, but 2, I can only imagine. And I'm so glad that she is speaking out, and I hope that her fiance speaks out. I hope everybody continues to speak out. And then Candace definitely has a whole lot more to say today, and she definitely let it rip. So let's get into that. Oops.
But beyond the eyes, just the actions, right? You can judge people by their actions. Erica, if she truly wanted more transparency, she could provide it, because you don't need it in a courtroom. We actually do not need to turn to the courts to have the public understand what happened on that day, because before the courts even got involved, the first people that had access to exactly what happened in 4K, as Tyler Boyer said, was Turning Point USA. They seized the cameras. They could have said, here, I'm also going to have some private investigators take a look at everything and tell them what they think. I was one of the people that called and personally requested to view the tapes. I said, we don't have to release them. I just want to see the tapes. And they were immediately cagey. They've been cagey about information. They've been changing information for saying, oh, I didn't realize that we lied about this or we lied about that. So making this public plea to the courts, I don't know. I think that it stands in stark contrast to the actions that are available to Erika Kirk as the CEO and chairman of this massive organization. But exactly how massive? Anyway, I wanted to write this open letter to Erika because I know that Turning Point USA watches every episode of this podcast and that people then take what I say back to her and they give her notation. So I would appreciate it if the elves at Turning Point USA just let her see this in its entirety. Here we go.
So Andrew, make sure you get that back to her in Blake Neff speed. Get it back to her. Although I'm sure she's probably watching everything that Candace does, without a doubt.
Go. Because more information has become available to me. I am feeling, well, I'm feeling some type of way. Here we go. Ready?
I'm just saying, we all love when Candace feels some type of way, right? Absolutely love it.
Dear Erika, I thought it best to do this publicly. I think public conversations keep everybody honest. And there are some things that certainly need to be clarified because sometimes the gap between the truth and the lie is what happens behind closed doors. You and Charlie began dating in earnest in 2019, and in retrospect, it was accompanied by a season of a lot of change. For one, I was getting married and virtually, therefore, joined at the hip with my fiance. He was sort of a new third wheel at all of our events. A few months later, on May 1st, the public was informed that I was resigning from my position as the communications director of Turning Point USA. Now, there has been a lot of public speculation as to what led to that decision. The media ran with it was anti-Semitism or some disagreement about Kanye West, but that wasn't true. None of that was true. The truth, and I think that you very well know what the truth is, you were around for it, is that Charlie and I had a disagreement which fractured my trust in him. He did something that he had never done before. He lied to my face about money. Now, in retrospect, I believe that the manner in which I discovered the lie might have been by design, but there's no need for us to delve into conspiracy when the facts are plenty enough. Charlie had taken a meeting down in Florida with Ike Perlmutter at Mar-a-Lago. It was a fundraising meeting. For whatever reason, he did not want me to know about this meeting, and that was strange. It was meant to be kept a secret. It was strange because we had always collaborated on and taken those sorts of meetings together. Anyway, I found out about it, and I decided to ask him casually as we were riding up an elevator at the Trump Hotel in D.C. I said to him, have you heard from Ike recently? And he looked me right in the face, just as he was getting off on his floor. And he said, no, I haven't. I haven't heard from him in like 2 weeks. And I then said back to him, really, Charlie, because you had lunch with him yesterday at Mar-a-Lago. And I saw his stomach drop. His entire face looked, as if he was going down a roller coaster.
I would also, it's a truth teller. She is a truth teller. She waited not even 24 hours. In the very first opportunity, she asked the question and she let it be known. She knows what's up. So I think people can accuse Candace a lot of things, but being a liar is not one of them.
He stuck his arm back in the elevator really quickly and tried to explain it away. He then pivoted toward an apology, but obviously the damage was done. And if I'm being honest, I was as hurt as I was shocked and confused by it because we were close. We did go back down to the lobby. We sat at a table and we talked. I don't even remember whether or not I was angry. I probably was. That does tend to be my choice emotion. But deep down, there was a...
Mine too, Candace. Mine too. Anger is my go-to. But she is absolutely glowing today, I must say.
part of me that knew that it was coming because of a lot of the new hires that were coming into Turning Point USA post Kanye tweet. Charlie had new people in his ear that were hijacking his ambition, making him believe that money was the truest measure of success. Charlie was a brilliant fundraiser, everybody knows that, but he was also young. He was naive to what the wrong money could invite into his life, and I warned him. I warned him in that restaurant. I warned him specifically about Stacey Sheridan. Everything about her made my skin crawl. I suspected she and Tyler had something to do with it. I also warned him about Schaefer Security and Dan Flood. You can check the text messages because you have them. And now I am left wondering, obviously, if Charlie had heeded my advice, if he would still be alive. I've also come to another realization that I missed at that time. Maybe the newest and the biggest influence in his ear. Who was that, obviously? It was you. You were the newest and biggest influence in Charlie's life. You kind of all arrived at the same time. And you too, Erica, you lied to my fate.
And I would like to point out that, yeah, all of them were new influences. Thank you, Tyler Boyer and Stacey Sheridan, because I also thought the same thing. And I'm not even in the know or connected like Candace is. And Candace has been sitting on all this, and everybody, accused her of being crazy and psycho and demonic and this and that and everything else under the sun. But the fact is, she just wasn't going to let everything out at once, and she still hasn't let everything out. And she knows more than anybody the happenings and what was going on and the fear that was in Charlie. Well, she explains it better than anybody.
As we sat down in that hotel and we spoke for 4 hours. But I want to be clear, it was different. You see, with Charlie, I could forgive him. We were always like brother and sister. We went on tours thereafter. But you did...
I'm sorry. My point with that was going to be, with fellas, he probably wouldn't have been so naive, but once they brought Erika in and she laid it on, he really didn't stand a chance.
Didn't do it when you lied. You didn't do it out of naivety. You didn't do it because you were young and being pulled into the wrong direction by bad faith actors. Andrew Colbert was never going rogue. You knew that. Every single evil thing that was done to me was done with your blessing. And I consider the onslaught of attacks that I had to endure, they were evil. Because you knew I was telling the truth, and you authorized people with an incredible amount of money to attack one of the few people in politics who was actually grieving your husband. You knew we had a deep friendship. You knew I was telling the truth about the Catholic thing, about everything. You allowed these people to lie and to say that Charlie and I hadn't spoken since 2019. I mean, it's crazy how much of a lie that was. You authorized it, and I now know that. The question is why? It was so cruel, it was so mean, right? Why impart that on someone who you know, within a sea of snakes, actually cared about Charlie and didn't want anything out of the organization?
My personal opinion, she was jealous. Obviously, Candace wasn't going away. They had a bond like no other. And I don't mean that in any kind of sexual way or anything. They had a true friendship bond. Candace loves her husband. I mean, she's everything that Erika probably wishes she could be, maybe, in my opinion. But Candace is a threat and has been a threat to her. And now my fear is, I love that Candace is bold but nothing better happened to her. Nothing, because we're not stopping. Nobody's going to stop. Just know that. Nobody is going to stop.
Maybe it's because I was like a loose end. One person that wasn't controlled by an organization, just kind of proven that I'd rather lose everything to say something that I don't believe, least of all for money. I mean, maybe it's also because you have his phone. And when I revealed to the public that he had predicted his own death in remarkable detail, maybe you went back and you read the rest of those messages, the ones that I haven't yet revealed to the public, because in retrospect, those messages they're pretty terrifying because they're precise and it feels prophetic. Charlie was gifted, you know that, I know that, and the government most certainly knew that as well since he was a kid, which is why it was at least very interesting to me that you told the New York Times, something that most people didn't pay attention to, but you told the New York Times the night before his murder, Charlie's, and I'm going to quote this, you said that Charlie's adrenal glands were just going off. He couldn't sleep. I know enough about Charlie to know what that means. That means that Charlie was being bothered. He was probably having visions like he was in 2018, probably a clearer vision than the one that I had that you guys tried to mock, that danger was coming. And I'm going to go ahead and say that it wasn't about a Jezebel article written by some leftists. Please stop saying that because it's not true. I know Charlie, a leftist article didn't upset him in this way. Didn't make him call a priest to pray over him. He thought someone was going to kill him. He did express that in writing. And you did not lose those text messages.
I can't even imagine how tormented that feeling must have been for him, not trusting anybody, and I just wish he would have went with his gut. I really do.
You knew that. Charlie and I spoke a lot about his third eye. That's why that sentence caught my attention in the article. We spoke about the street lamps that would go off when he would run, about the special school that he had to go to. We spoke about a lot of the things that were strange in our childhood, the testing that both of us had to endure. We spoke about the fact that we could both astral project. You know all of this, of course. You have his phone. And how surprised we were when we learned that not everybody does that naturally. Sleep paralysis, you name it. We had conversations about it. And if Charlie's adrenal glands were going off, it was probably maybe for the very same reason that I pulled my kids out of school days before he was murdered, because I sensed danger was coming. And since we are being open, I also want you to know that it struck me as odd when you said in that interview with Jesse Waters that you wanted Charlie to have a good night's sleep. He was so excited. So you sent him to sleep in his daughter's room. It just registered to me as a little bit backwards. If I wanted my husband to have a good night's sleep because of something he had the next day, I'd probably let him sleep in the room, and I would sleep in my daughter's room. Flag that. I
thought that was strange too. I thought it was weird all along. I wondered why they didn't sleep in the same bed together or in the same room. To me, he sensed, or there was some funky shit going on with them personally. But it's sad to think that that was his last night. Yeah, the truth will come to light, and it is. And all the people that have been persecuting Candace and calling her evil and demonic are, in fact, evil and fucking demonic.
I also thought what was interesting is that you said the next morning when he snuck in, he grabbed his wedding band. Again, minor detail, but I asked myself, why was his wedding band off? But enough with speculation. Here are the facts. I now have verifiable proof in writing that Justin Strife and you lied to me. You know exactly who Pierre is. Why did Justin Strife say that he had never heard of Pierre? It's crazy. Justin, why would you do that? Justin, you know him. You've met with him. You've personally met with Pierre. Erica, you've met with him in the wake of Charlie's death. I have, again, verifiable proof. So you could call your lawyers. You can spend another billion on PR if you want to. Tell your lawyer to call my lawyer. I mean, you guys certainly have the money to do all of these things. It's not going to wipe away the truth. Okay? The truth is that there was a deal on the table with Pierre, who, yes, is from France, born in France. And that deal was worth billions. Not millions, billions, plural, billions of dollars. Just after Charlie was shot, and again, I have proof, Pierre had a phone call with Justin Strife. He also had a phone call with Mr. Don Orico of Turning Point USA down in Tampa. And you know what's really odd? Somehow this Frenchman, Pierre, he knew that Charlie was dead before the rest of the world did. How did he know that? How did he know before I knew? Especially because he wasn't yet a donor to Turning Point USA. Why was he given so much priority?
How did Bibi Netanyahu know before it was released? How did Terrell Farnsworth know when he was recording his ridiculous selfie video? He's dead. Charlie is dead. Forever burnt into my mind. How? How did they know? And I absolutely love when Candace is glowing. And everybody that says that she normally pulls her hair back, Jessie on fire, she looks just as good with it down, and she's pissed too.
Frenchman. I'm interested. I know that after Charlie died, that deal went through. Yeah. And if I'm lying, this would definitely fall within the category of defamation. So, yeah, I'm all in on this one.
All in.
I'm guessing, by the way, regarding this, Pierre, this might be the reason that the White House never got back to me regarding the French Foreign Legion being involved with Charlie's assassination. Because, I don't know, there could be a French angle here. Could this be a motive? Could billions of dollars be a motive? I mean, I'll just ask some immediate questions. My question would be, why would a devout Catholic Frenchman be looking to give billions of dollars to an evangelical organization? Is that not weird? Just objectively weird? Gosh, that's a pretty big investment. Just really care about free market capitalism? What's France got to do with college campuses in America, full stop? The answer, Erica, is nothing. Nothing. And one of the things that when I was a kid, and other GATE kids, because we've been speaking about the GATE program, and they put you in these special classes. They test you frequencies, sounds, they made us drink fluoride, all the weird stuff. But one of the things that they're especially interested in is how quickly you can put together puzzles. And I want you to know that I excelled at that. I was really good at putting together puzzles. I gotta tell you.
I gotta tell you, I wish I was live right now, because if I was live, I would definitely do a poll and have the consensus come together on just how good everybody thinks that Candace can put a puzzle together. I believe it would be high.
I think picture is starting to emerge here. I think I was right. My best guess is that it was Pierre Falcone all along. Of Angola Gate, we talked about it on the show. France, Israel, the United States. This time it would be Egypt rather than Angola, all working together. Maybe they were getting the band back together to traffic because, there's been a lot of trafficking that just keeps coming up in this investigation. These countries, these satellite of countries, you trying to pretend with your, billions of dollars? Got a PR, we can do all of this. And it was so crazy. Oh my God. Little joke about the Egyptian planes. What? Nothing to see here. This is my theory. There's a lot to see here. Because you were lying to cover Bibi Netanyahu's tracks. That's very strange. You were there when Bibi Netanyahu called. Andrew told me that Bibi offered to take Turning Point USA to the next level and that Charlie turned him down in the Hamptons at the dinner that you were a part of. But you don't remember that part. You say he was just calling about a letter that Charlie wrote 5 months earlier. The dinner that you thereafter allowed an army of influencers to claim never actually happened, but you were there. Oh, I was there every step of the way. None of this ever happened. Nobody wanted to address Bibi calling. Nobody made any statements about that. Full-blown psyop, psychological operation. Truly, everything that you guys did, not only was it cruel, but I think the real motivation was you just thought you could psychologically break me. Because that's what this whole thing has been. It's been one big psyop. Very well funded because there's a lot of money on the line. If nothing happened in the Hamptons that was out of the usual, why the panic? Because something did happen. Charlie told Bibi Netanyahu no.
And Bibi don't like that.
Also, Charlie had declined to have Bibi on his podcast. And Bibi went on a little PR tour. Charlie didn't want to have him on the podcast, according to Andrew. So Charlie seems pretty done with Israel, right? You don't want to have on the Prime Minister of Israel? But the obvious question here at the media is not interested in, but I certainly am, is in exchange for what, right? In exchange for what was Bibi Netanyahu going to take Turning Point USA to the next level? In exchange for what? And also, how was he planning to get that money into the company? Turning Point was already worth $100 million. It wasn't $100 million. What does the next level mean? It sounds like it have to be billions. Via who? My guess is Pierre.
So yes, I don't know how that makes you feel, but I personally love when Candace has had enough and decides to come out and glow and show everybody. I mean, she is a truth teller and she's a truth seeker, and she is Charlie's David. Candace Owens, you are Charlie's David. And we are all your David. We are all standing behind her. So with that is all I have for tonight, everyone. Hope everybody has a good night. And if you like this content, like and subscribe, share, turn on notifications. Again, I'm new. It helps. Like, subscribe, share, notifications. But thank you. And I suggest that everybody go over to Candace's her show and watch the entire episode because it's awesome. Again, like, subscribe, share, notifications, and I will see you again tomorrow. Good night.